The sound of shattering glass ripped through the quiet of a small town morning. At first, no one could believe what had happened. An eagle, with its wings stretched wide and eyes blazing with determination, had come crashing through the window of a little house. The neighbors stood frozen, mouths open, hearts pounding. This wasn't just any bird flying into a building. It was as if the eagle had a purpose, as if destiny had sent it at that very moment. And inside that house, trembling in a corner, was a tiny puppy, its soft cries barely audible beneath the chaos. That helpless sound was what the eagle had heard, what had pulled it down from the skies. What unfolded next is something most people would never believe unless they saw it with their own eyes. It is the story of a life hanging by a thread, and of a hero no one expected. A wild creature driven by instinct, by courage, by something far greater than chance. The puppy had been left behind in an abandoned house, trapped between broken boards and tangled wires. It had been crying for hours, maybe days, its voice growing weaker as hunger and fear stole its strength. No one walking past had noticed. The house looked empty, lifeless, forgotten. But the puppy's desperate cries had carried further than anyone could imagine, reaching the ears of a hunter of the skies. That eagle, fierce and powerful, had heard something human ears had ignored. It had chosen to act. This story begins not with people, not with human hands, but with the sharp vision of a bird of prey who saw what others missed. A bird that broke through fear and instinct, through walls and glass, because it refused to let a small life fade away unseen. This is not just a rescue story. This is about a moment that makes you question what you thought you knew about animals, about nature, and about the invisible bonds that connect us all. And it all began with the sound of shattering glass. The little puppy had not always been alone. Just weeks earlier, it had belonged to a family who had once promised to care for it, to love it, to keep it safe. But promises can be fragile, and sometimes people make choices that leave scars not only on themselves, but on the innocent lives who depend on them. When that family moved away, they left behind the tiny creature in a house they no longer wanted. Perhaps they thought someone else would find it. Perhaps they believed it would somehow survive on its own. But the truth was harsher than that. The puppy was trapped inside, locked in by broken boards and a sealed door, with no way out and no one to call its name. For days, the puppy whimpered in the darkness, its small body trembling from both hunger and fear. The floor was cold, covered in dust and broken glass. Every sound outside made its little heart race, the passing of footsteps, the bark of distant dogs, the hum of traffic that seemed so far beyond its reach. It cried until its throat grew raw, until its voice became just a soft whimper that hardly carried beyond the cracked walls. Still, no one came. The world outside continued as if the life inside that house didn't exist. And yet, even in the middle of its fear, the puppy never gave up calling out. With each fragile bark, it was asking for help, begging for someone to notice. That determination, that fragile hope, is what reached higher than the rooftops. It traveled beyond the empty streets, past the silence of human ears, and into the sharp, searching senses of an eagle soaring overhead. From the sky, the eagle spotted the flicker of movement inside the shadows. It heard the faint cry that no one else had cared to hear. It circled, it studied, and then, with a decision as sudden as it was powerful, it dove. This was the moment when two very different lives, a predator of the skies and a helpless little pup, collided in a way no one could have ever predicted. When the eagle crashed through the window, the sound was like thunder. Shards of glass rained down, scattering across the dusty floor. The puppy froze, its tiny body pressed low against the ground, heart pounding so fast it seemed ready to burst. At first, fear overcame everything. Fear of the noise, fear of the enormous wings beating against the air, fear of this sudden force that had shattered its small, trapped world. But almost instantly, something shifted. The eagle did not strike. Its talons, sharp and deadly, did not reach for the pup in violence. Instead, the great bird stood tall, feathers ruffled, head turning with piercing eyes that scanned the room. It was searching, not hunting. It was here with purpose. The puppy whimpered, and the sound guided the eagle's gaze. Slowly, the bird lowered itself, stepping carefully among the broken boards. Its wings tucked in close, each movement deliberate, controlled, almost gentle. It reached toward the tangled wires where the puppy's paw had been caught. The pup squealed as the wires cut tighter with every movement. For a heartbeat, it seemed hopeless. The wires too strong, the puppy too weak. But the eagle used its beak, pulling and twisting at the cords, tearing at the snare that held the small life prisoner. Every snap of wire echoed like a drumbeat of freedom. Minutes felt like hours. The puppy cried out, and the eagle answered with determination. At last, with one final strike of its powerful beak, the last wire broke free. The puppy stumbled forward, limping, shaking, but free at last. The eagle spread its wings again, lifting dust and glass into the air, as if announcing victory. For a moment, the two simply looked at each other, the helpless pup and the mighty bird. One had given everything it had to survive. The other had risked itself to break through barriers no one else had. In that silent exchange, something unspoken passed between them, a bond that no words could ever explain. The rescue was not just about breaking wires and glass. It was about breaking the silence, breaking the loneliness, and giving hope back to a life that had nearly been forgotten. The days that followed the rescue became a turning point in the puppy's fragile little life. Weak and trembling, it had been carried from the shadows of that broken house into the light of the world outside. Neighbors who had witnessed the eagle's shocking dive rushed to see what had happened. At first, they were speechless, staring at the shattered window, at the bird perched proudly just beyond it, and at the tiny pup now free from its cruel trap. Slowly, their shock turned into action. One kind woman stepped forward, her arms outstretched, gathering the trembling puppy against her chest. For the first time in days, the pup felt warmth, the heartbeat of another living soul, and a soft voice whispering comfort. It closed its eyes and leaned into that safety, as though it finally understood it was no longer alone. The eagle did not fly away immediately. Instead, it lingered, circling above as if watching, guarding, ensuring the little creature was in good hands. People whispered in amazement, calling it a miracle, a sign, something they would remember forever. And then, with a final sweep of its massive wings, the eagle soared back into the sky, leaving behind a story that would live in every heart that saw it. Under the care of its new guardian, the puppy began to heal. Fresh food filled its tiny stomach, warm blankets surrounded it at night, and gentle hands tended to the cuts on its paw. Slowly, the trembling faded. Its eyes grew brighter. Its tail began to wag, and small barks of joy replaced the weak whimpers of fear. The puppy was discovering what life should feel like: safety, kindness, love. Each passing day was proof that broken beginnings do not have to mean broken futures. The transformation was not only physical. The pup's spirit, once so close to fading, now glowed with a new light. Its trust returned piece by piece, as it realized there were people willing to fight for it, to cherish it. That little life, once forgotten in a dark room, now carried hope, carried joy, and carried a story that would inspire anyone who heard it. Weeks passed, and the little puppy grew stronger with each sunrise. What had once been a frail, trembling body now carried energy and excitement. Its fur grew soft and shiny again. Its eyes sparkled with curiosity, and its steps became bold and playful. The house that had once been filled with silence and fear was replaced with a new home filled with laughter, warmth, and love. The woman who had taken the puppy into her arms became more than a rescuer. She became family. Every morning, the pup would race to the door to greet her, tail wagging furiously, barking with pure joy as if saying thank you again and again. The bond between them was undeniable, built from a moment of despair transformed into a lifetime of devotion. Yet, there was one thing that no one could forget. Sometimes, late in the evening, the woman would sit outside with the pup resting against her lap. She would glance toward the sky, wondering if the eagle was still out there, watching from a distance. And strangely, on more than one occasion, the pup's ears would perk up, its eyes lifting toward the heavens. A shadow would pass across the clouds, wings stretched wide against the fading light. For just a moment, the world seemed to pause, as if reminding them both of the day their paths had crossed with a creature of the wild. Though the eagle had returned to its life in the skies, its presence remained etched in their hearts forever. The puppy's story became something larger than just survival. Neighbors told it to friends, who told it to others, until it spread far beyond that small town. People spoke not only of the eagle's incredible act, but of what it meant, that sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes heroes have wings instead of hands. The once forgotten pup was now a living reminder of courage, of hope, and of the silent connections that bind every living soul on this earth. Its life was no longer a whisper in the dark, but a song of joy carried on the wind, echoing the gift it had been given. The story of the eagle and the puppy is not just about survival, nor is it only about a moment of dramatic rescue. It is about the reminder that kindness, courage, and compassion are not limited to humans alone. Nature holds its own language of loyalty and love, and sometimes it reveals itself in the most unexpected ways. A predator, a creature many fear, chose to act not with destruction but with mercy. That choice saved a life, and in doing so, it touched countless others. The eagle did not hesitate, did not question, did not wait for someone else to step in. It listened to the cry of a fragile soul and answered in the only way it knew how, with action. That is a lesson for all of us. Every day, there are voices we do not hear, cries we overlook, small lives depending on someone to notice. They may not always be loud. Sometimes they are whispers, like the faint whimper of a puppy trapped in silence. Sometimes they are hidden in the shadows, like the eyes of a stray animal searching for kindness. We often walk past them, too busy, too distracted, believing someone else will care. But what if we are meant to be the ones who listen? What if we are the only hope that stands between despair and a second chance? This story reminds us that true strength is not found in power alone, but in compassion. True bravery is not about dominance, but about sacrifice. And true humanity is shown not only in how we treat each other, but in how we treat the creatures who share this world with us. The eagle became a symbol that day, not just a bird in the sky, but a guardian of life. A reminder that even in a world filled with cruelty, moments of pure goodness still exist. So let us carry this message forward. Let us open our eyes, our ears, and our hearts to the ones who need us most. Because sometimes, saving one small life can change everything. And sometimes, the echo of compassion can last forever. Subscribe for more videos.